Welcome to Through the Drama. Chris Harrison and Lauren Zima coming to you from the home office in Austin, Texas. LZ, it is week 2 of our show. We made it through week 1.
We made it. We're still married.
Yes.
TBD. Just kidding, kind of. I'm really getting into our theme song music.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gives me like 90s TV show theme vibes in a really good way.
I miss a great TV theme.
When it was so good, I might write lyrics like, through the drama.
We had, growing up in the Love Boat era, all the great sitcom eras. Yeah, I do miss a good theme.
Step, Family Matters.
Facts of Life.
They were so good.
Yeah.
And now now you have shows like Succession where it's just sort of unsettling.
Well, in our Reels era, nothing can be more than 7 seconds long.
True.
Speaking of trying to cram things into 7 seconds, we had an insane weekend. We were fully overbooked.
It was my fault.
It usually is in that case.
Absolutely. Listen, I always say know thyself. And I do know that I am better overbooked than under. I truly, if I'm alone for maybe more than an hour or two, I get a little depressed. I need to be around people. I am aware of this, but that means that I will sometimes keep us booked and busy. So last week we launched the show. I had some medical stuff going on, which we will get to later in the week.
Yes.
I threw a charity fundraiser for this organization, Experience Camps, at our house on Friday night. And then Saturday, we went to a gala for the University of Texas. So on Sunday, I took a nap, which means something's really wrong.
That means, the world stops.
I know. Were you worried?
If you stop. I was worried. I'm like, is she going to get up? But by the way, one of the things we went to this weekend, the big One Fun thing at the University of Texas, Parker McCollum, Leon Bridges, and Leonard Skinner performed.
Rocking it.
Now, look, I understand at this point it is a Leonard Skinner tribute band, essentially. Like none of really the members of Leonard Skinner are in there. But when you hear Leonard Skinner do Sweet Home Alabama and Free Bird, there's just something good in the world. It felt good. I know it's not the Leonard Skinner, but still.
I'll be honest. I'm learning in the moment that it's not the Leonard Skinner. Thought it was the guys, but they were great.
They're still very experienced. They were still very experienced. Yes.
Can I say something? I do want anybody at home, please let us know if this is just us. I'm really wondering, I'm going back to the booked and busy thing, if in every couple there's one person who is like me and one like you, because a nap was rare for me, but you kind of take a nap every day.
No, as I said, you know what? My nap, it's just a Sunday. It's Jim Nantz, it's golf. Shout out to Scotty Scheffler winning the PGA Championship yesterday in grand fashion. But let's talk about LZ, about what kept us up last night, because this stunned us both.
Well, what kept me up in part was the fact that I had slept earlier in the day, but let's not get into that. Okay, so Variety has this new article out. Variety, a very Hollywood industry publication, and they are breaking down the salaries of the CEOs at the big streamers, studios, etc.
Right.
And this blew our minds. We are in this business. I knew these people were being paid a lot, but I want to point out that the article starts with the sentence, and actually I'm going to bring it up on my phone and just read it. It starts with the sentence, the entertainment industry is seeing pretty tough days.
Yes.
So
overall,
things are not good.
Right.
And David Zaslav is the CEO of Warner Discovery.
Yes. Would have been my boss at this point had I stayed. He came in right around 2022 when I was leaving The Bachelor, and The Bachelor is kind of owned and operated. I know it's kind of confusing because it's on ABC, but it is a Warner Discovery property. He
made $51.9 million.
Oh, not worth it. Sorry.
Dollars last year. I think it's insulting. I do. I think we're in a time, they also include, interestingly, the median employee salary
at
each of these places. Go to the article to read it all, but let me give you a couple of the highlights. David Zaslav made $51.9 million, median employee $130,000. Ted Sarandos of Netflix, at least Netflix is doing better, or successful.
Very.
Made $61 million, and they're paying their employees more, about $215,000 a year. Bob Iger at Disney, $41 million, annual employee median salary, $55,000.
And let me try to put this in perspective. These companies are worth billions. But when you look at a company like NVIDIA, the second highest valuated company in the world, the chip maker, $3.3 trillion. Apple is the biggest, a little over $3.3 trillion. NVIDIA's CEO, and their stock has been up 350% in the last 2 years. and their CEO makes $50 million. Tim Cook of Apple makes $74 million. That's pretty stiff, but their stock is up over 22%. Warner Brothers is down 26%. So most CEOs, their money is tied to revenue, how the companies are doing, and all this is public. These are publicly traded companies. So if your company does well, you do well. Warner Brothers Discovery is a disaster.
It's not doing well.
It's not doing well. Part of that is Zaslav's fault. Part is not. Part is the industry is a mess right now and everybody's kind of scrambling for lifeboats. But Zaslav came in 2022, ripped apart the last regime, made fun of them, quickly canceled CNN Plus, quickly got rid of the name HBO. That turned out to be...
Oh, they brought it back.
Here's the funny thing is last week they brought back HBO and CNN is also doing 2 new digital platforms.
I think it speaks to a larger issue overall, though. This isn't just the entertainment industry.
Right.
We're in this era right now where, you know, I think it used to be maybe when our grandparents were in their adult years, like you could own a furniture store and that was your livelihood and you lived a good life. Now, that furniture store, well, you have to think, is it going to get acquired by a bigger company? And all these companies are wrapped up into bigger companies. And then these CEOs at the top are making all this money. And as you said, in this case, they're not even doing well. But when I want to say that again, he made $51.9 million and the median employee salary was $130,000. Honestly, in LA, that's barely a livable wage. And it's disgusting to me. It is, because I've been like, when I was at ET, I was in there with, you know, video editors, people who are working so hard, up all night, working crazy hours because it's the news business, making 50, 60 grand and living in Los Angeles. Yeah. It is such a massive difference that I don't know really how he sleeps at night, to be honest.
I worked on a show for them and you are fighting for pennies. And I mean, pennies to try to get people hired, to try to make it look good on camera. And they do this to every show and make them cut corners so they can make more money. And then you see these people in the C-suite making millions. The CFO makes $17 million. The streaming chief executive makes $20 million. So it's not just Zaslav. It's across the board of these people making just egregious, grotesque amounts of money. You know who's not making grotesque amounts of money but is still delivering each and every day? Loni Coombs.
She's going to be with us next. We are going to give you an update from our legal expert, Loni, on the Diddy trial and the Taylor Swift-Blake Lively friendship fallout ahead of her big case. Welcome back to Through the Drama. We are going to continue to cover this Diddy case. Diddy, Sean Combs, on trial, facing multiple very serious charges, and we've finished the first week of testimony and cross-examination. So we wanted to bring in our legal expert, co-anchor of Merit News, and a former prosecutor, Loni Coombs. Loni, thanks for coming back.
Good morning.
Great to be here. Happy Monday.
All right, so Loni, first I want to ask you, we're 1 week into the trial now. Cassie Ventura, Diddy's former girlfriend of 10 years, took the stand last week. She gave her testimony. It was shocking. It was harrowing, talking about the abuse that she says she suffered. And she also underwent some cross-examination. Overall, what were the big highlights for you in this first week?
You know, Lauren, I think that Cassie was a really pivotal witness for the prosecution. She had an almost 11-year relationship with Sean Diddy Combs, so she really knew him well, and she was able to lay out the foundation for essentially all of the charges that he's charged with. In the direct examination, she went through a lot of testimony about these freak-offs that we heard about, these drug-fueled sexcapades, essentially, that would go on for days sometimes. And she described what they were. Essentially, they would have a male escort come in and participate, and Sean Combs would sit there and direct and say where the lighting was and the action and when to start and when to stop. And she talked about how at first she was willing to do it, but then she didn't want to anymore. And throughout the relationship, how she didn't want to do this. And she talked in graphic detail about physical violence, about being beaten, about being stomped on by Combs. And she talked about that video that we've seen, that hotel video, and she gave context for it. She said that was actually during a freak-off where Sean Combs had hit her, punched her, and so she was literally trying to run away from that freak-off. The cross-examination, though, was also good for the defense because they were able to go through all of these text messages where she goes on and on about how much she loved him, how much she cared for him, how she wanted to do freak-offs, how she was helping to set up these freak-offs. And they also were making this point that this was a consensual relationship. They were agreeing to this lifestyle, but also that she was a strong, independent woman who could come and go. She was dating other people during different times of the relationship, and that she also apparently, had a temper. That's what they're alleging here, so that the abuse might have gone back and forth. I think both sides did a really good job with what they have, and I think Cassie overall was an excellent witness because she was open. She wasn't defensive. I mean, this is a really hard, humiliating testimony to give, but she really appeared to stay dignified throughout it all.
Loni, what we learned in week one is that Diddy is a horrible human being on a grotesque level we rarely ever see in a human being. But the defense owns that. The defense actually ran in their opening statement, said, this guy is a horrible human being. That's not covering RICO. And I'm going to pick up where I kind of left off with you last week, which is we got to really show racketeering, that he was in charge of this empire, that he was running a prostitution ring. Cassie didn't really get to that. And obviously, we're just building this case, and I know it's a chess match, but we got to see more, right?
Absolutely. And that's why the trial is going to take at least 7 more weeks, they're estimating. As far as the criminal enterprise charge, she laid the foundation by talking about the different staff members that were involved, that knew about it, that helped to set up these freak-offs. That's part of what they're alleging is the criminal enterprise. But allegedly, those people themselves are going to testify as well. So that will be very important evidence for the prosecution. The other thing we heard about was whether this was consensual or whether it was coercive. And that's also important as well. Like you said, horrible human being, domestic abuser, admitted all of that. But is it sex trafficking? Because in sex trafficking, you need coercion, you need force. And so it's really going to be up to the jury to decide, was this coercion or was she agreeing to all of this?
Well, Loni, I think from a human level, from a woman level, but also just we all know kind of where we're at age 19 when they started dating, right. And he was 10 years older than her. And listen, age gaps are one thing, but when you're 19 and you're in an age gap relationship, your brain isn't even fully developed yet. Your frontal lobe, your decision making isn't fully developed yet. And she is dating this much older man who not only is dating her, but locks her into an album contract for 10 albums. He's also tied up in her career. So I understand they have these back and forth text messages where she's saying, I love you, I love the freak offs, but how much can that come into play or be explained in court? This thing that's sort of, I think for the average person, well, when I'm not 19, I'm not making good decisions, and she got in this relationship, but then there's how much you have to prove legally.
Yeah, exactly. And Lauren, even to emphasize that, they started together when they were 19, but they didn't start out as a couple yet. He was her boss. He was her mentor. So he has her career in his hands. When she was 21 is the first time he kissed her, and then it started the relationship. So that's a very important aspect of this as to whether she really could be understanding the consent here. And she talked about that. She said, I was young, I was naive, and I was just trying to please this boyfriend that I loved and I cared about. And then I realized that it was hurting me, and I tried to stop it, and he wouldn't stop it. He kept forcing me, coercing me, threatening me with the videos of it, right? Of humiliation. I'll release these videos if you stop doing it. So all of that's going to come into play.
Do the charges hinge on Cassie and whether the jury believes Cassie here, or are there other victims, alleged victims or people involved that the prosecution is going to say, no, he sex trafficked these people as well, and that kind of thing?
That's a great question. So there's 2 charges, the sex trafficking and the prostitution for Cassie. And then there's a sex trafficking prostitution for another victim that we're going to hear from, Jane. So you're right, it's not just all in Cassie. And the interesting thing about Cassie, because it was an 11-year relationship, it gives the defense more to work with. That was a good relationship, it was a bad relationship. But remember, for these charges, there only has to be one incident that was bad. Yeah. Only one incident. It kind of have to be the whole relationship. Usually in cases like this, you only have 1 or 2 incidents at the most, but she had this whole, lifetime essentially with him. So there are other victims as far as the criminal enterprise. We're going to hear from other witnesses as well. So Cassie got built up as like she's the end all be all, but she's not. She's literally just the first witness. And right. The prosecution might have called her later in their case, but because she is literally about to give birth, they called her at the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why. I wondered if that was part of the thought process, bringing her out right off the bat. Do you have more?
It is. Well, no, it is a chess match. Week 2 begins. There are 3 more prosecution witnesses that are going to be brought to the stand.
Well, that's what I want to ask
next
about,
few
Loni,
weeks.
if we can. Like, what are we looking at this week? Because I was reading that Don Richards of Danity Kane is taking the stage. And I remember, look, I'm a millennial. Danity Kane, it was the reality show where Diddy brought made this girl band. And over the years, some of them, including Aubrey O'Day, have really spoken out about that experience in a very negative way. But what did Don Richards have to say, and how much does her testimony matter? Because for the average person, I think we're all watching it going, wow, this was all happening under our very nose. We were watching this show where this band was made. We were looking at, Diddy and Cassie on the red carpet. It's really mind-boggling. What was she sharing?
Yeah, so she took the stand near the end of Friday, and she's going to be on the stand still. She said that she saw him abuse her a number of times, and talked about
Cassie.
one specific incident where he came down. He was mad at the way she made her breakfast. He grabbed a skillet and tried to hit her in the head, and she immediately went down in the fetal position to protect herself. Clearly, it was a pattern that she had been through. He then grabbed her, drug her upstairs. She heard breaking things upstairs, and she said she was afraid to do anything or say anything, never called the police. She said that then the next day, Sean Combs reaches out to her. We need to go to the studio. We need to work. And there he said, you know what? This was just a passionate relationship. This is my relationship with Cassie. Don't say anything. And then he made sort of this comment about, people who talk go missing. So, of course, the defense objected to that as well. But, this is to corroborate. Usually it's a he said, she said in these abusive situations. But like you said, people saw what was going on here.
All right. So week 2 begins. Will we see the Diddy tapes? What are these new witnesses going to have to say? We will find out. We will continue to follow this. When we come back, Taylor Swift and Blake Lively. This has gotten messy. We're going to dive into that next. Welcome back to Through the Drama, and we are back with Loni Coombs, Merit anchor and legal expert. And we're shifting gears now to the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni case. And things got pretty gnarly publicly last week when Taylor Swift, who's kind of always been in the periphery of this thing, really got thrown into the middle of this, Loni.
Yeah, absolutely. And she has been dying to stay out of it. This is not a good thing to be involved in. This is something everybody's talking about, taking sides, judging one side or the other. And she has always been, a close friend of Blake Lively. People knew about that. People were wondering if she was going to be thrown into it. And sure enough, last week, Justin Baldoni's team subpoenaed Taylor Swift as a witness in this. She immediately put out a statement, her people did, saying she has nothing to do with this. She let them use one of her songs in the trailer. That's it. She had nothing to do with it. But in response, Justin Baldoni, through his team, his attorney, Brian Friedman, who is a really, really good attorney, said, no. She was involved in, helping to pick who one of the actresses were that we hired. She had involvement in when they were, trying to figure out how to do the rooftop scenes. She was around. She was involved. And so, they're kind of bringing the receipts as to why she should be deposed in this case, because apparently she had some involvement.
Yeah, you feel like Brian Friedman is playing chess here publicly, because he knows that the receipts are very public. I have now seen, after this came out last week, several interviews or junkets with Blake Lively where she talks all about, braggadociously talks about Taylor Swift. She was on with Gayle King, CBS Morning News. My best friend Taylor Swift has been a part of this from the beginning. She's had a say in everything. She was on this junket on stage talking about Taylor Swift. There was the meeting, infamously, where Justin Baldoni came over and Taylor Swift was there at the apartment. Now,
yeah, we saw those text messages.
Yeah, so was Blake just being braggadocious? Was she just trying to throw out there that she's friends with Taylor Swift? Maybe, probably. But now that just shows that she was lying. And that's kind of where this case falls, is that Blake Lively has been lying. That's at least what Brian Friedman's trying to attest to.
And Brian Friedman, like you said, he is a very clever attorney. He plays chess. He's represented a lot of celebrities, over time. He did Megyn Kelly. He did Bethany Frankel. He did Robert Downey Jr. I know he repped you. That's right, Kris. And he's very successful in what he does. And he knows how to play the public as well. And so bringing Taylor Swift in, even if it was Blake Lively just bragging about it, that gives him grounds to say, well, then I want to depose her. I want to talk to her. And he went so far as to submit a letter Now, this wasn't a subpoena. This wasn't a legal document. It was a letter to the judge in this case. And he laid out an allegation here that was really inflammatory. He says that Taylor Swift's legal team, actually reached out to Blake Lively's legal team reached out to Taylor Swift's legal team and said, hey, she wants you to come out publicly and support her. And if you don't, we have some of these text messages we might release. Now, Blake Lively's team came out immediately and said, this isn't true. We want that letter taken out of the record. And the judge agreed and took it out of the record. But it's out there already, right? People are already talking about it. So the public knows about it.
Lonnie, why did the judge take that letter out of the record? What were the grounds there? I was a little confused on that.
Well, it wasn't a legal document. And they said their grounds for it was a source. The source, right? So then who's the source? How can they vet that? How can the Blake Lively's team actually try and attack that? So there's really not enough grounds there for them to be able to say that that's actually legitimate evidence.
I gotta admit, I'm fascinated. I'm exhausted. This is supposed to go to trial in May 2026, right? We're a year away from this going to trial. I can't imagine what's gonna come out. Like, what will the lawyers' plans be from here through May, Lonnie?
I think they're going to continue to do this. We're going to try to bring other people in, put out those text messages, play the public as much as they can. Neither one's backing down, neither side. Blake Lively's team has already said she's going to testify. We don't know if Justin's going to testify. I'm guessing he will. It seems like the public sentiment is sort of going in his favor right now. But between now and then, like you said, it's a year away. Who knows what may happen between now and then?
Well, People Magazine, and I will say I think I trust People Magazine's reporting with sources on stuff like this. They're saying that Taylor has halted her friendship with Blake Lively. If there's somebody who knows how to protect her brand, it's Taylor Swift.
Loni Coombs, thank you so much for joining us. Truly appreciate the time, and we'll stay up on both of these cases. And I agree, Taylor Swift does not want any part of this.
She has a PR person, Tree Payne, who is devoted to her, and they control everything. It's how she's built everything. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes. Could be some bad blood. Thank you, everybody, for watching through the drama. We will see you next time because we got a lot more drama to get through.